Carl?
Very well, have you? It's wonderful to see you. This is fascinating because my very first interview when I started in public relations was with you in the HRV.
Oh my God!
So this is a nice reminiscent.
And now we're going a little bit further back in time.
That's
because
right.
This is the 1986 Acura Integra. So one of the two first vehicles that came to the U.S. with the new brand, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. It was an American Honda innovation.
Yeah. So I was looking at this historic document here. Let me see if I can pull it out. No, not this one. Which one was it? There's one. Oh, I think it's that one.
Owner's manual.
Yeah. So this one, Robert and Jean Kennedy, who live here in Pasadena, March 28, 1986. So this was the first delivery, probably, right?
Yes, because
or one of the first.
It was, if I think correctly, it was March the 27th.
Oh, the next day then.
That was
the opening?
The official birthday of Acura.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so next year in March will be the 40th anniversary. So this is incredible that this car was sold only a day or so after the brand.
The opening.
Yeah.
So what were we doing in 1986, in March of 1986?
In March of 1986, well, I graduated in England in 1982 at 16 years old.
Graduated from what, kindergarten?
No, I wish. That was from high school.
Okay.
So I probably had my first job, let me think. I was probably working in a warehouse. Oh wow! Then driving a forklift and driving a delivery vehicle. So
well, you're already involved in something moving with an engine.
Yes.
Yeah. So in '86, I was already working. I was already a sports journalist, and I was actually at the World Cup. I remember when you mentioned 1986. I remember the World Cup in Mexico.
Yeah.
And actually was at the Argentina-England game where Diego Maradona scored the goal with the hand of God. Yeah. And then he scored the second goal, which was like the best in the history of World Cup. But anyway, so we're gonna go out and drive a little bit in this Integra. So this car now belongs not to the Kennedys, but to for Honda.
Yes, so
seatbelts or Acura, I guess, a museum.
Yeah, so it's actually one of the museum collection. So Honda Heritage Public Relations is a department that I run. That's a new department for the last couple of years. And so my department includes our museum in Torrance, California, which I built in our main headquarters.
Wow.
And then we already had an existing museum in Marysville, Ohio. That's been around for going on 11 years now. We had our 10th anniversary a few months ago at the beginning of the year, and that focuses on Honda's footprint, manufacturing footprint in the US. And so obviously Acura is very important in those terms, because today 100% of Acuras that are sold in the US are built in the US.
Oh really? Wow. I always love when you guys or any car company brings the old cars to the events, because it really shows the evolution of, not in this case not only a car but the company itself, and it really gives you perspective. So tell me a little bit about this car, specs and everything. It has a 4-cylinder engine.
Yes, kind of backing up a little bit. I mean, the whole reason behind Honda, American Honda, wanting to have another channel, which was what they called it before we came up with the term Acura, was for several reasons. And market research indicated that kind of the mid to higher end vehicles, the market was going to expand. But also we realized that some very loyal Honda customers that had Hondas for decades, they maybe get to a higher level of household income, and they could afford and wanted some more luxurious,
a little more,
items on a car, but also a little bit more performance. So for those primary reasons, the Acura brand was founded. And Acura is from the Latin mean accuratus, which means mechanically precise. So I think that really that term is really emblematic of Acura. So in 1986, well, 1985, we announced that Acura was going to come, and we were starting with just a few dealerships.
And it started only in the US, right?
Just in the US, yeah. It was an American Honda initiative to come up with this second channel, or this second model, or brand rather. And so the two models that we came out with was the Legend,
which was a sedan,
sports sedan, exactly. And that was the first vehicle that we sold in the US with a V6 engine. So obviously a lot more performance than the equivalent Accord of the time. And then the second model was the sports coupe, which was the Integra. And we had two versions. We had the RS and then the LS. And
which is the one that we're driving.
Yes, the LS was the higher trim level. And it came with either a 3-door or a 5-door hatchback. The platform was based upon the Civic. The 3-door was almost exactly like the Civic platform, but the 5-door was lengthened a little bit for a slightly larger interior. But the whole ethos of Acura was not only to provide a high level of feature content, to have a much more luxurious vehicle, but also performance.
Yeah.
So it was based on the 4-cylinder 1.5 Civic engine, but with a lot of changes. So it was bumped up to a 1.6 litre, but also the whole top end was changed to have a double overhead cam 16 valve powertrain, where the Civic was making about 92 horsepower. This made 113 horsepower, and then the Civic was making about 93 pound-feet of torque, and this made 99. So really, with all of the feature content plus the extra performance, this very aerodynamic and sporty bodywork really filled the spot that we were looking to find. And you know, right off the gate, Acuras sold like hotcakes.
Yeah. So, and from the very beginning, that was it's always been the difference, right? Like this, the Acura brand always offers more in every aspect. I mean, in this case, again, this is the first car, so, and compared to today's cars, not a lot of high tech, let's to be honest. This still has a cassette player, but an equalizer, I guess. Like back then, that was like a big thing.
Exactly, equalizer, and it has cruise control, you know, a bit all of the HVAC systems of the time, you know, being in the mid-80s. So, yeah. But also, you know, the materials as well. I mean, you know, the two-tone color scheme of the cloth interior, you know, and just a high level. I mean, even having a right side mirror back in the 80s for the Honda side, that was an accessory. That was
accessory.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So these cars are maintained by the new division, like the historic heritage division for Honda, and
yes,
there's another old car there.
Yeah, so Honda Heritage Public Relations, we have a total about 140 cars.
Oh, wow.
They're equally distributed between our Ohio museum and the California one, and in both museums they're roughly around the same size, and we can generally get about 40 cars in each museum. So then we have warehouses where we keep the others. Yeah. And you know, as any car enthusiast knows, especially a you know, a vintage car enthusiast, if a car isn't driven, it ceases to be drivable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've been on
a lot of work to keep them running, right?
It is. I mean, you know, it's like they say, painting the Golden Gate Bridge. As soon as you reach the end, you have to go back to the beginning again. So yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to be involved with this and to work with some fantastic vendors, both Honda and Acura dealers, and then local vintage Honda and Acura experts, to get them up into the best condition, and then to keep them running. And the fantastic thing, or the interesting thing, is that the museum in Ohio, which, as I said, was focused on a manufacturing footprint, many of the vehicles there, certainly the ones that we manufactured in the US, came directly off the assembly line. So those are pristine examples with very few miles. However, American Honda's headquarters in Torrance, we started to collect vehicles in about the year 2000. We moved to our current large headquarters in 1990, and we realized that we needed to have a collection of our vehicles because people were very enthusiastic about both the Honda and Acura brands. So many vehicles, as you noted in the owner's manual, these were bought off the used car market.
Oh, really?
So
the Honda went out and Acura went out and looked for it in the market. So that's the history of this car. Do you know where it was and everything? Was still here?
I don't have all of the provenance of this vehicle. I mean, other than knowing who the first owner was, and obviously you can kind of do VIN checks with some of the later models, but not something as early as this. So, but the thing is, I love the fact that many of these vintage vehicles that we can have members of the media like you drive have a little bit of a patina of age, and they have a lot of miles on the odometer.
168,272, but it runs perfectly. I mean, I guess you have, as you just said, a team of mechanics, that people who drive them and keep them up to date with all the maintenance and all that.
Yes, absolutely. But you know, because cars are meant to be driven, and the motorcycles that we have in the collection were built to be ridden. So I love that they have a little bit of wear and tear, because you know that someone bought this new and they were so proud of it when they purchased it. It was their pride and joy. And
but a car is new only for like 20 minutes. Right? The moment it gets out of the dealership, it's already used. But like the feeling of having the car new, it's something really, really cool. And to me, to see it again, I mean, I guess the seats maybe have been restored. I don't know if they're completely original. They look like new.
Yeah, no, this car is basically how we purchased it, other than cleaning it up a little bit.
Oh, really? Wow.
So obviously it was a car that was incredibly well taken care of. And especially for a car that, you know, has a sporty intent for spirited driving. You know, you often find that vehicles that are older, that young car enthusiasts that like to drive in that spirited fashion, they often modify vehicles.
Yeah, and they lose value by that, right?
They do. Which, you know, it was nice for the people at the time. They personalized the vehicle to their own tastes. So sometimes the hardest thing when we're searching for a used example of a whole old Honda and Acura is finding one that's in stock condition. And also one that's in good condition. So thankfully now, well, there's pros and cons to the fact that now many early Honda and Acuras such as this have reached that area where they're collectible. You know, like you said, you know, cars only is new until you drive it off the forecourt of the dealership, and then it's a new car in all intents and purposes. Then it's a pre-owned car, then it's a used car, and at some point, you know, the value drops off a cliff, and it's just, you know, some people just have them as beaters. But then, especially wonderful examples such as this, you get to people of a certain age that maybe this was the first car.
I know, a lot of memories. Everybody has its own stories with them, right?
Exactly. And I would almost argue that close to 100% of vintage vehicle enthusiasts have an emotional attachment to the era, or to the car, the brand that they are collecting vehicles from. Whether it was the grandparents' vehicle that they love going on road trips, maybe it was their parents' vehicle, the first car that they had in high school. So that's wonderful. So obviously in 1986, people of our era, you know, I had not long graduated from high school, and so I would have loved to have this car.
Can you imagine back then having this as new? It would have been incredible. So in terms of, let's talk a little bit more about the new museum. Is that open to the public? Are there other initiatives within Honda and Acura about like making more of a presence of the history and offering different, I don't know, vintage merchandising, or what is the company doing?
The American Honda Collection Hall, which is the what we call the museum in our headquarters in Torrance, that was unveiled. We had our grand opening in September of 2023, and then the following month we had our first Cars, Bikes and Coffee show. It's like a traditional cars and coffee style event in the enthusiasts. And we invite everyone from every brand, every model, every era to show up. So we have our parking lot filled with enthusiasts that bring their own wonderful cars and motorcycles. But I would argue that it's the world's largest cars and coffee style event.
Oh, wow.
Because we've been doing it every other month. So 6 a year, and we get an average of 2,600 people showing.
Wow.
So we get
That's
12
really cool.
to 1,600 vehicles. The biggest attendance that we had was in February of this year, when we had 3,700 people showing up. And so we open up our museum, we have food trucks, vendors, a live DJ, and we often have special activities based on each theme. So we theme each event.
Oh, I
so
see.
for instance, in April, we always time it the week before the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Of
and
course.
the theme is racing. And we have a parade of performance. So we have race cars driving through the event. We have ticket giveaways for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. That event that I mentioned this past February, we had just launched the Honda Passport Trail Sport, and we brought in literally tons of dirt and created an off-road driving
really?
experience
Wow.
in
the
our
parking
parking lot, and that's what prompted so many people to show up. So it's a fantastic event, and as I said, we've been doing those every other month. The museum is open during regular business hours during
Is there a
the
fee
week.
to
No,
get
no
in?
fee whatsoever. We have a Starbucks in the lobby. We have a store. You'd mentioned about vintage apparel and things like
Yeah.
that. So we work with multiple vendors, including one called Honda Vintage Culture, who make these wonderful vintage inspired apparel items that are very sought after. And then in Ohio, we host the Honda Meet, which is a big Honda and Acura only car show. We had our biggest one yet this past September. And then in the new year, starting in April, we're going to have Saturday openings once a month over in that museum. And again, that museum is open during regular business hours for no fee.
Okay.
So we have lots of different groups, retiree groups and school groups, Boy Scout groups. Lots of people come, and so we're thrilled to be a part of the environment. And one of the kind of the focuses that I have is invite in and reach out. So
Okay.
not only do we invite people to our museums, to our cars, bikes and coffee shows, but also we participate in other shows like the Japanese Classic Car Show.
I saw in Pebble
Redwood.
Beach there was a big presence there too, right?
Exactly. So it's great that we have these resources, you know, these vintage vehicles that people are very interested in. And then especially when we have new vehicle launches, like obviously we're just
With the
about
new
to
Integra,
launch
yeah.
the new Integra, and then the new Prelude. So bringing out the vintage versions, especially the very first one like this is, you know, it gets a lot of interest with obviously members of the media like you, because you know that your audience will also
Yeah.
be interested in learning more
Absolutely.
about that.
So, I mean, we're running out of time now, but unfortunately, because I would drive this all day. But let's say someone is listening and they have an old Acura or Honda, should they contact you and maybe see if there's any value in their old cars?
Yeah, so you know, we're often looking out for prominent vehicles that are in good condition. So we do have a website. It's hondaheritage.com.
Okay.
And so that gives information about our two museums and our activities. There's a contact us section there
So
that they can reach
see
out.
that. And again, like whenever you have something, you always think it's more valuable that you that might be, and there's a lot of cars sold over 40 years, but maybe there's something out there that you haven't seen or you are interested in, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we also have we're on social media.
Okay.
At Honda Heritage US.
Excellent.
That's on Facebook and X, and that's the best way to learn about what's going
Interact,
on.
everything.
Because we post at least once a week, often more than that, because we're always changing out the displays in the museum. Right now we have a celebration of our 50th anniversary of designing product in the
Yeah.
US. So we have a great display in our Torrance Museum. We have a pop-up Honda Racing Corporation store that's selling some fantastic racing inspired apparel. And then we have a lot of race cars, including 2 Formula One cars that we have.
The very first one was taken to the Mexico City Grand Prix recently, right?
Yeah, that was the RA 272.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were celebrating our 60th anniversary of our first Formula One win.
Wow,
So
a lot of history. And,
lots of history.
I love that. So thank you very much for
You're
your
very
time.
welcome,
Nice to
Javier.
see you again. And unfortunately, we're gonna go back and return this beautiful car to the market.
No, it was a pleasure chatting with you again.
Thank you.